Hello students, I'm Imkongtan Lapungan from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. Today I'm going to speak on the module Impact of Population Growth on Environment from the paper Demographic Anthropology. Well, the learning objectives of the module are to understand population growth and environment, to discuss the consequences of population growth, to delineate the impact of population growth on environment. Well, man is continuously trying to tame the nature for his benefit. Domestication of environmental elements up to the threshold level is not harmful to natural balance. However, excessive use or rather misuse of environmental resources makes the environment vulnerable. With an increasing population, natural and man-induced environmental disasters are causing increased damage, loss of life, and displacement of population. The dimension of human vulnerability to the environmental condition have socio-economic as well as ecological dimension, which are strongly being manifested when the communities are not capable of coping with the impact. The rapid population growth and economic development in country are degrading the environment through the uncontrolled growth of urbanization and industrialization, expansion and intensification of agriculture, and the destruction of natural habitats. One of the major causes of environmental degradation in India could be attributed to rapid growth of population, which is adversely affecting the natural resources and environment. The growing population and the environmental deterioration face the challenge of sustained development without environmental damage. This figure illustrates the growth of human population. Now let us discuss the impact of population growth. Environment and ecological consequences. Rapid population growth could lead to environmental deterioration. In many developing countries, continued population growth has resulted in pressure on land, fragmentation of land holding, collapsing of fisheries, shrinking forests, rising temperatures, loss of plant and animal species, severe pressure on forests due to rate of resource use and nature of use, adverse effects on species diversity, conversion of habitat to some other land use such as agriculture, urban development, forestry operation, etc. In India, 70 to 80% of freshwater marshes and lakes in the Gangetic floodplains had been lost in the last 50 years. The following things are not favorable to environment and ecosystem, like tropical deforestation and destruction of mangroves for commercial needs and fuel woods, poaching and illegal harvesting of wildlife, which is a threat to ecosystem and environment, increase in agricultural area, high use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides and weedicides, water stagnation, soil erosion, soil salinity, and low productivity. Degradation of coastal and other aquatic ecosystems for domestic sewage, pesticides, fertilizers, and industrial effluents. This figure illustrates the population growth and its consequences. Environmental degradation is a result of the dynamic interplay of socio-economic, institutional, and technological activities. Environmental changes may be driven by many factors including economic growth, population growth, urbanization, intensification of agriculture, rising energy use, and transportation. Environmental pollution is one of the serious problems faced by the people in the country, especially in urban areas which not only experience a rapid growth of population due to high fertility, low mortality, and increasing rural-urban migration, but also industrialization, which is accompanied by growing number of vehicles. According to the World Development Indicators report, in 1997, 1.5 billion people live exposed to dangerous levels of air pollution. 1 billion live without clean water and 2 billion live without sanitation. Population impact on the environment primarily through the use of natural resources and production of waste, and is associated with environmental stresses like biodiversity, air and water pollution, and increased pressure on arable land. India is the world's sixth largest and second fastest growing producer of greenhouse gases. Delhi, Mumbai, and Chennai are three of the world's 10 most populated cities. Increase in the human population activity pollute the environment and disturb the ecosystem, and above all, and first one is the pollution. Pollution may be found in air, water, and soil, which directly imbalance the ecosystem and the environment. Now let us discuss in detail about the different kinds of pollution. Air pollution. The World Health Organization defines air pollution as substances put into the air by the activity of mankind into concentrations sufficient to cause harmful effects to health, property, group health, or to interfere with the enjoyment of property. The urban air pollution has grown across India in the last decade, which is alarming. The main factors account to urban air quality deterioration, which are growing industrialization and increasing vehicular pollution, industrial emissions, automobile exhaust, and the burning of fossil fuels, which kills thousands and leave many more to suffer, mainly from respiratory damage, heart and lung diseases. And automobile exhaust accounts a sizable part of pollution. Their effect on human health is particularly of concern. Road transport accounts for a major share of air pollution load in megacities. India is expected to have 51 metro cities by 2021. The number of vehicles on Indian roads is estimated to increase by 9 times by the tune of the century, out of which 65% to 70% shall be two-wheelers or three-wheelers. Urban transport demand is expected to grow more than 2.6 times by 2020 at the existing model split in larger medium-sized cities. At the existing model split, the urban air quality is expected to deteriorate faster in the 21st century, as two-wheeler population would be as high as 86.13% of the total vehicles used for passenger transportation. The enhanced greenhouse effect, acidification, and ozone depletion are all examples of atmospheric pollution that has occurred mainly after industrialization, urbanization, and deforestation. Now let us look at water pollution. Water pollution is the pollution of introduction into fresh or ocean waters of chemical, physical, or biological material that degrades the quality of the water and affects the organisms living in it. This process ranges from simple addition of dissolved or suspended solids to discharge of the most insidious and persistent toxic pollutants such as pesticides, heavy metals, and non-degradable bioaccumulative chemical compounds. Now let us look at soil pollution. Land is often used as a recipient for treatment of waste. Land also receives waste spills, and this is the degradation of the Earth's land surface through misuse of the soil by poor agricultural practices, mineral exploitation, industrial waste dumping, and indiscriminate disposal of urban waste. Now let us look at acidification. Atmospheric emissions of acidifying substances such as sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides, mainly from the burning of fossil fuels, can persist in the air for up to a few days and thus can be transported over thousands of kilometers when they undergo chemical conversion into acids, that is sulfuric and nitric acid. The primary pollutants, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and ammonia, together with their reaction products, lead after their deposition to changes in the chemical composition of the soil and surface water. This process interferes with the ecosystems, leading to what is termed as acidification. The decline of forests in Central and Eastern Europe and the many dead lakes in Scandinavia and Canada are examples of damage which are in part due to acidification. Modern forestry and agriculture contribute to but can also be affected by acidification. Acidifying substances also play a role in the greenhouse effect. Furthermore, nitrogen oxides contribute to the ozone problem, buildup of tropospheric ozone, depletion of stratospheric ozone, and together with ammonia, contribute to the nitrogen fertilization of natural terrestrial ecosystems. With phosphate, they contribute to eutrophication in water. It is yet another problem of environmental degradation between 17 to 22 kilometers in stratosphere. The problem is considered to be acute in industrial countries and in parts of Asia-Pacific regions, Northeast India, Thailand, Japan, China, and South Korea. The main cases involved nitrogen oxides, especially sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and nitrous oxide. This acidification leads to acid rains affecting the forest and the fish. Now let us discuss about global warming. Over the last century, human activity has led to a dramatic increase in the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Most experts agree that this build-up of greenhouse gases has contributed to an increase of 1.3 degrees Fahrenheit in the Earth's average surface temperature over the past 100 years. Current rates of greenhouse gas build-up will cause further warming and induce additional changes in the climate system that would very likely be larger than those observed during the 20th century. The expected consequences of such warming include major disruptions to agriculture, water supplies, and the diversity of life on Earth. Hurricanes and typhoons are likely to become more intense. Precipitation is expected to increase at high latitudes and decrease in subtropical areas. Now let us discuss about ozone depletion. Many of human activities are badly affecting the atmosphere. Ozone depletion is one of those examples. Life is protected from ultraviolet rays by stratospheric ozone layer, which acts as a shield or sunscreen. Approximately 90% ozone is present in stratosphere at a height of 10 to 17 km and is called as ozone layer, while remaining 10% is present in troposphere. Medium frequency ultraviolet radiations 200 nanometer to 350 nanometer are absorbed 97 to 99% by the ozone layer. Ozone is colorless just like oxygen, but it has very harsh odor. It is very rare as compared to oxygen. The process of ozone formation is called as photolysis. When the ultraviolet radiations from the sun strike the oxygen molecules, it causes splitting of the oxygen molecules. Oxygen molecules react with oxygen atoms in the upper atmosphere to form ozone. The ozone layer is basically naturally occurring case in the region of stratosphere where ozone particles are accumulated. Ozone layer is also naturally broken down, but there is a balance between its formation and natural depletion. As a result, the total amount of ozone remains constant. But ozone layer thickness varies with altitude and seasonal change. Ozone concentration is highest between 19 to 23 km. Most of ozone is formed at equator where there is maximum sunshine, but with winds it travels at high altitude and get accumulated in stratosphere. Ozone hole is created in the region where ozone layer has been depleted. The term ozone hole is applied when the depletion level is below 200 Dobson unit. Ozone holes were first discovered in Antarctica in 1970. Few years ago, ozone holes were also discovered in the Arctic region. Since 2000, rate of ozone depletion is increasing 0.5% per year. Due to depletion of ozone, ultraviolet rays are penetrating in the troposphere and leading to more ozone formation in the troposphere, which is causing injurious effects on our health as ozone is toxic for our body. In addition to increase in concentrations of greenhouse gases, acidification, human activities have caused changes in the ozone layer which have serious implications for human health as well as for the Earth's ecosystem. Ozone is important for filtering the ultraviolet radiation and thus acts as a screen against the occurrence of skin cancers, cataracts, and other diseases of the eyes. Major causes of ozone depletion are chlorofluorocarbons used in aerosol propellants, refrigerants, cleansers for electronic components, solvents, and in the production of foamed plastics. Ozone depletion is affecting the human health and environment negatively as it allows the penetration of ultraviolet radiations to reach the Earth. These radiations can cause severe diseases in humans such as skin cancer, eye damage, and genetic mutations, etc. Furthermore, the ozone depletion is affecting the aquatic life, biogeochemical cycles, air quality, and also contributing to global warming. Now let us discuss about urbanization. For developing countries, population living in cities has almost doubled since 1960 from 22% to greater than 40%. In developed regions, 61% to 76%. By 2030, nearly 5 billion, 61% of the world's 8.1 billion people will live in cities. Cities and towns have become the engines of social change and rapid economic development. Urbanization is associated with improved access to education, employment, and healthcare. Problems due to urbanization: development of basic minimum services, housing, water supply, sewage, and solid waste disposal. Increasing automobiles aid to air pollution. Persisting poverty in urban and semi-urban areas. Awareness about the glaring inequities in close urban setting may lead to social unrest. Failure of government to provide adequate habitat for human development has led to the emergence of squatter settlements and the slums. The problem of slums and squatter is of growing concern in the third world countries. Now let us discuss about the change due to disposal of waste material. The high energy consumption and high population densities of the urban societies gave rise to large quantities of wastewater and sewage as well as domestic rubbish. Sewage can also cause pollution by promoting bacterial growth, which is a problem acute in India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, and Philippines. Industrial waste, which consists of chemicals, detergents, metals, and synthetic compounds, besides solid waste and garbage, poses potential threat to human health. Examples include mercury poisoning impairs sensory, visual, auditory functions. The nuclear waste contain radioactive isotopes which generate large quantities of heat. The disposal of nuclear waste is a serious danger to the biosphere. Besides this, it creates ecological problems also. For example, incidence of childhood leukemia occurs in population close to nuclear reactors. Now let us see what is desertification. Desertification is a condition of human-induced land degradation that occurs in arid, semi-arid, and dry subhumid regions. Precipitation or potential evapotranspiration or P/ETP 0.05 to 0.65 and leads to a persistent decline in economic productivity that is greater than 15% of the potential of useful biota related to a land use or a production system. Climatic variations intensify the decline in productivity. Restorative management mitigates it. Dry lands or territories susceptible to desertification occupy 39.7% of the global terrestrial area. Desertification is caused primarily by overexploitation of natural resources beyond their carrying capacity and due to which natural ecosystem and environment disturbs. Climatic change is an important cause of desertification, yet the increasing human pressure exerted through overgrazing, deforestation for fuel wood, and expansion of agriculture are main causes of the same. It is a long-term degradation of dry lands resulting either from overuse by man and his animals or from natural causes such as climatic fluctuations. Let us see about water supply. Water demand substantially exceeds sustainable water supply, and it is estimated that currently 8% of the global population are living in countries affected by water stress by 2020. About 1/4 of the human population may be facing chronic and recurring shortage of fresh water. On the other hand, excessive use of water has led to waterlogging and increasing salinity, which could have adverse impact on India's food production. Aquatic environment is one manifestation of the water circulation of the earth. People rely on limited quantity of water, therefore, water becomes scarce as world population increases so rapidly. Water qualities are said to be safe enough for people's use and environmental conservation. WHO developed the Drinking Water Quality Guidelines, which supports individual country to establish its own national water quality standards. Microbial aspects have prior importance with their severity and extent of contamination. For agriculture, irrigation water may cause salinization if it contains large quantity of salts. Salinization deteriorates the productivity of agricultural land and eventually it becomes heathland. Water contamination directly affects aquaculture. The death of aquatic organisms is mainly caused by poisoning asphyxiation, or epidermal lesion by corrosive chemicals. Now let us look at food security. Definition of food security adopted at the World Food Summit in November 1996. Food security exists when all people at all times have physical or economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. To meet a growing global demand for food and fodder, one can opt for increasing yields through intensification or for extending the land base used for agricultural cultivation. Intensification and concentrating food production in the most productive regions may appear the most efficient way to use the land. However, risk to food security may be increased because supply chains become more vulnerable and because of pollution. Loss of group diversity, decline of pollinators, and increased vulnerability of monocultures to diseases are additional stress factors. On the other hand, regional or local self-sufficiency and the reliance on extensive farming systems would require more cultivated land at the expense of natural habitats. It is estimated that the global population will grow to 9 billion by 2050 and the food production will double. Improvement in purchasing power and changing dietary habits may add to the requirement of the food grains. Therefore, in the next 5 decades, the food and nutrition could become critical in many parts of the world, especially in developing countries and pockets of poverty in the developed countries. Now let us look at nutrition. Rapid environmental changes are profoundly altering the relationships between humans and the ecosystems in which they live. These changes include overpopulation, loss of biological resources, ecosystem destruction associated with industrial and commercial development, climatic change, urbanization, modern agriculture employing pesticides and other inputs, and erosion of food group diversity. As community development priorities merge with those of the environmental conservation, it becomes increasingly clear that unless human populations meet their basic survival needs, they cannot afford to conserve. At the same time, unless local communities protect the environments around them, they have limited hope to thrive beyond the short term. As nutrition represents the most fundamental of human needs, it provides a useful perspective from which to address this paradox. Nutrition research provides essential information on how environmental degradation can lead to major nutrition-related health problems such as malnutrition, infectious disease, and contamination. For example, growing population in India has led to poverty, ill health, low literacy, lack of safe drinking water, sanitation, and health care. All this further contributes to the widespread prevalence of infection and ill health in not only children but also in adults. The major nutritional problems include kwashiorkor, marasmus, beriberi, goiter, night blindness, and anemia. Though with the advancement in technology, the frequency of these problems have reduced, but the milder forms of chronic energy deficiency and micronutrient deficiencies continue to be widely prevalent in adults and children. Now let us summarize this module. The rapid population growth and economic development in the country are degrading the environment through the uncontrolled growth of urbanization and industrialization, expansion and intensification of agriculture, and the destruction of natural habitats. One of the major causes of environmental degradation in India could be attributed to the rapid growth of population, which is adversely affecting the natural resources and the environment. Adverse effects on species diversity, conversion of habitat to some other land use such as agriculture, urban development, forestry operation, etc. In India, 70 to 80% of freshwater marshes and lakes in the Gangetic floodplains had been lost in the last 50 years. Consequences of population growth are acidification, ozone depletion, urbanization, change due to disposal of waste material, desertification, water supply, food security, and nutrition. That's all for this module. Thank you so much for listening.